Sure. So my name's Devansh. I'm in my 5th year of medicine at the moment, and I've just sat my barrier exams.
And so my name is Arunan, and I'm also in my 5th year. We're both currently at Bathurst doing 1 year here, and we've just both finished our exams.
Terrific, thanks guys. And now I understand you spent some time in Brewarrina. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so our time in Brewarrina was a part of our Aboriginal health program, and it occurred around the end of last year. So Brewarrina is a relatively small place, around 10 hours from Sydney, northwest, with a population of 1,000 people roughly. And we both spent 4 weeks there working at the Aboriginal Medical Service.
And what did you know about Brewarrina before you went?
We did a bit of research about the town's population, what we might need to bring. We contacted a few of the students who'd went before and just to see any general tips and advice. But generally not too much. Ian gave us a bit of information as well, and we knew about the fish traps. They were really old, one of the oldest markers of Aboriginal presence in Australia. So we knew about that and we were excited for that, but didn't really know much else.
What did the other students who'd been there tell you to expect?
They mainly spoke about logistical things such as like the car and driving and fuel and groceries and what to expect from that point of view. So we knew what to bring up and just kind of how the day was structured.
Great. And so what sort of things did you do to prepare? What did you pack on the advice of the other students and other information you had?
Well, so food was one of the things that we brought along because we heard that the 2 grocery stores got stocked once a week, and food was available, fresh food was available, but not as frequently as we might be used to in the metropolitan or in regional areas such as Bathurst. So we brought food, especially because one of my dietary requests at the time was that I was vegetarian. So that was another thing that contributed to it. And we brought along a few bottles of water as well. The AMS had a little water cooler thing that had fresh water in it. So we often refilled our water bottles there and were able to have fresh water drink. There was water coming out of the taps and there was water to shower and take care of everything, but it was a bit hard, so it didn't taste as what we were used to, so we brought along these bottles. Yeah.
And what was the trip there like? How did you get there?
So we both took a car there from Bathurst, which was 6.5 hours from here. I don't think there is any other real way to go there apart from drive. There's no real public transport or anything. It would take a lot longer. And so the drive was quite remarkable in itself in that, like, for certain stretches of road, you're just going straight for 200 kilometers and you're seeing things that you've never seen before. Yeah. And just like colors of the dirt and things out there. And for both of us, this was the furthest west we've ever been in New South Wales.
Yeah, definitely.
It was definitely a good experience, just even driving there.
Yeah. Lots of red, lots of just dryness, and a lot of different animals like emus. I've never seen emus before out in the wild. It was really cool to see that. Yeah.
Terrific. And where did you stay?
So we stayed in accommodation that Ian, the coordinator of the Indigenous Health Program, had arranged for us. It was maybe about a 5-10 minute walk away from the AMS where we were working, and we usually drove there because we were a bit lazy, but it was very reasonable if you walk there as well. But yeah, it was really nice accommodation. There were 2 separate rooms for us, both with en suites, a nice kitchen area, and mostly very well equipped, and with a television as well, in case you want to bring along some movies to watch.
Okay, and what was the town like? What was there?
So the town is, it's quite small and something that kind of catches your eye, with only very few landmarks such as like an RSL club or like a pub here and there. So in terms of things to do, you really had to kind of make your own way for things to do. That being said, when we were there were events at the RSL club that we did attend to, so we were lucky in that sense. But apart from that, there is a gym there are fields there are tennis courts there and things to do, but you need to kind of look, I guess.
Yeah, so if you brought along your tennis rackets and a few balls, and you contacted the local doctor there who had the nets for the tennis court, you could set that up, and most definitely, I think on the weekends the doctor likes to play tennis, so you could always join him, or you could get amongst yourselves and play a bit of tennis. And the local gym there is kind of like a 24-hour gym. It's in a little shed, and you have to sign up, but you get a 1 year membership for $50, and you can go there whenever you like, as often as you like. Yeah, and we also joined the local cricket team for a short period. We trained with them, and we played on one match on one of the Saturdays, the only time that we could have played an actual match. Yeah, it was really, really enjoyable, really fun.
And where were the other cricket teams from?
So we had the team that we joined was the Brewarrina brothers, and then they would verse people from Burke and other neighbouring towns. I think when we played, they were from Burke.
Yeah, somewhere near Burke, some small places.
Yeah, and then there's other places like Walgett and Lightning Ridge, and they always just meet up at one of these towns and play.
So neighbouring town has a whole new meaning when you're in remote Australia, doesn't it?
I mean, the next town was 100 kilometres away, but that also isn't considered far for them.
Terrific. So can you tell us about the AMS in Brewarrina? Who worked there?
So the AMS it's somewhat like a GP practice mixed with like a hospital, designed for Aboriginal people mainly. And it is staffed by a doctor who is a locum doctor. So they've had some trouble trying to get a consistent doctor, but generally people come out for perhaps 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and then they'll go out and they'll get another person. So there is one doctor there. There are several nurses there. There's an Aboriginal liaison officer, and every now and then you would get like ophthalmology coming in from RPA and other doctors coming in for one-day events just to see people like that. So there was a lot of in and out doctors coming. There's also a podiatrist there as well, which was quite good for us because we didn't really know much about podiatry beforehand, but he let us in on his consults and what happened.
So that kind of leads into my next question, which was what are the sort of things that you were doing, each of you?
So a lot of our jobs within the AMS was sitting in with the GP and attending those consults, as well as doing pre-checks on patients before they went to see the GP as well. So often we'd alternate that role. So one person would be in with the GP while the other person was doing the pre-check, kind of taking their vitals and screening for diseases such as hypertension or diabetes by doing blood glucose levels really quickly before they saw the GP.
Okay, and what sort of differences did you notice in what you're doing at the AMS to other places you've had a little bit of experience so far?
I think the difference mainly consisted of the people that were coming in the sense that their attitudes towards health and how they responded to you would be slightly different to what you'd expect in a metropolitan setting. A lot of them were a bit more weary and didn't often want their blood glucose levels checked, because often they might be fearing the results or something like that. But otherwise, we saw a few very wild readings, like really high blood pressures, or sometimes the very high random blood glucose level. But otherwise, it was more or less what we would expect, I suppose.
Okay. Could you share a few memorable experiences in the work that you're doing?
The thing that shocked me most was that since there are only 2 doctors in Brewarrina, and there's one that lives there permanently who operates the whole hospital essentially, and then you have the locum one who comes into the AMS. So we as medical students, especially in our 4th and 5th year, we were considered like as interns or like a bit higher. So the thing that shocked me most was when there was a certain kid that came back with a graze on his arm or graze on his leg, and certain times, like we would be the only people that he would see. Like we would work him up, we would do his dressing and clean it all, and then we would send him off on his way with follow-up. So in that sense, you kind of get responsibility for patients, which was a shock to me that someone could come in and not see the doctor and just see us, and then that would be adequate. So that was nice that the roles and I guess responsibility was higher than what I've experienced in any other rotation.
Okay. Now you mentioned you joined the cricket team and you played some tennis. What was it like meeting people while you were there?
I thought it was really great. Everyone was just really, really friendly and inviting and welcome for you to join. Like with the cricket, I just happened to stroll up to the cricket team while they're having their training session, and they invited me along. And at the time, Arunan was at the gym, so I kind of called him over as well, and then we kind of just started playing a training with them, and then they invited us to the game as well, which we didn't expect. We thought we'd just be training with them, but one thing led to another, and everyone was really friendly and welcoming. Yeah.
Yeah, I never felt really any kind of discrimination or anything. We're always accepted into the town, and I mean, being accepted into a cricket team when they don't even know who you are, and like we got to play with them for a day, even though we did lose by a dramatic margin, but still, it was fun, definitely fun.
Terrific. And what was on at the RSL that you went to?
It was a sheep shearing contest, which was, I mean, like something that I've never heard of, but yeah, it was a lot of people coming from quite a far way away, and it was pretty much how fast can you shave a sheep, and there was people, like a lot of people drinking, a lot of music playing, and people really get amongst certain people, like the heroes of the local towns. And I mean, we didn't really understand much of it, but it was just good to see everyone coming together over this event.
And you mentioned the fish traps around Brewarrina. Other than that, what other interesting things did you see?
So as part of the AMS's orientation to the town, they took us for a tour of the museum, and so they kind of paid for our entry to that. And one of the local elders who works at the museum, he showed us around the museum and the history of the town, and just gave us a really good look into historical events, such as one of the events was like a massacre that occurred nearby. He told us all about the history of it, and then he took us around behind the museum where the fish traps, and he told us about the areas as well as significant areas in the town, such as a burial site as well. So that was really interesting.
On our weekends as well, we also visited Burke and did a bit of a hike there, where we saw Aboriginal paintings, Aboriginal rock paintings, like in a natural state. So we went to a place called Gundabooka and did a short walk to a cave, and it was just amazing to see like authentic paintings there. And then on another weekend, we went up to Lightning Ridge, which was about an hour and a half drive, and it's like an opal mining town where a lot of kind of unique kind of people come there looking to strike and get rich quick. And we got to go down into one of the mines and explore what it was like there, and just experiences that you'd never even think of knowing.
Now, for students who are a bit concerned about leaving their families to go somewhere as far away as Brewarrina, what would you say to them about those concerns?
Well, I would say that it's a once in a lifetime opportunity kind of thing. Like, I've never traveled this far away from home, lived in a town this small, or with, I suppose, such limited resources in one aspect. And I think it's something that everyone needs to experience once in a life, especially if they're given such a golden opportunity. It might be daunting to leave your family if you've never done so before for, say, 4 or 5 weeks, depending on whether you're in a rural placement or a metropolitan placement. But it's definitely worthwhile. And after those 5 weeks, I feel like you'll come back with a lot more experience and a lot more knowledge about what actually happens in rural areas. And for your own practice and your future practice, it'll be a really valuable experience.
Yeah, without it sounding like too preachy, I mean, I agree with all of that like it is scary to leave home, but it's a very safe kind of time to travel. I mean, you're covered by the uni, you're not doing something too drastic, you're just going there for 4 weeks. And we both went in with just kind of like a bit, what are we going to expect, what are we going to be doing? But if you go in with a positive attitude, I think you can get a very positive result. And that's what we both did. And I loved my time there, as kind of skeptical as I was prior to. But I think it's such a safe time to be doing something like this, especially as a placement, and you definitely be better for it, and change is always good.
Terrific. And what effect has that had on the way you look at your studies now?
I think it helped us in terms of understanding the resources and what people in rural areas I suppose deal with, in a sense, in terms of what they have available to them in terms of, say, imaging or investigations. Like, I remember during my experience, we had to know which blood test to spin in a centrifuge, whereas in hospitals you would just put them in a bag, put the stickers on and put them in a chute, and it would go straight to pathology, whereas the nearest pathology lab was in Burke, which was 100 kilometres away from Brewarrina. So once a day they would come and collect the pathology. So I suppose it gives you a better understanding and appreciation of what rural areas deal with. In terms of my studies, I guess it helps you in terms of the Indigenous aspect of the course and when you're setting your examinations for that and writing up responses. But how it might have affected my studies, I would say that we went in a time that was very far away from our exams, and we just kind of finished the year. It was our last rotation for the year. So I thought it really allowed us to really get into just the experiences that we could achieve around the town and engaging with the community, as well as making the most of the placement itself. So that was helpful for us. But if someone's going into it just before their exams, I suppose one of the challenges would just be to dedicate the time outside of the placement to be able to study, but also have some time on the weekends to enjoy yourselves and become part of the community.
Yeah, furthering on from that, bloods were taken, as you said, once a day at 11 o'clock. So if someone came in at 12 and you wanted some sort of answers soon, like you couldn't use blood tests in order to kind of get your answer. So there was a lot of focus on like clinical exam and what you can get from the patient to get your diagnosis, which was very different to what we've experienced before.
Yeah, that's some really interesting practical things that people may not think about. As you said, it's very different to a metropolitan hospital where it's highly specialised. Do you have any last words of advice for any students heading off either on their AMS placement in rural or remote areas, or having any other kind of rural experience?
Definitely go in with a positive attitude. Don't go in thinking that you've been kind of sequestered off somewhere where your friends might just be going to the beach in Port Macquarie or something. Like, don't have that attitude, because you can never really get a positive outcome if you walk in with that kind of negative attitude. Just a couple of practical things. We brought a lot of movies and TV shows downloaded on our laptop, which was very beneficial to have to watch, because there were times where we just had nothing to do really, so just put on that.
And a HDMI cable. You
get HDMI cable as well. Yeah. You get Wi-Fi there, which is good. Telstra network works there, but the Optus network did not work there. So I didn't have signal for, the whole time, but he did. So just make sure that is something to think about.
Definitely buy like a Telstra thing before you go to a place like Brewarrina. I think the nearby towns like Burke and Lightning Ridge and all that, they all have Optus coverage, but just Brewarrina is the one that's missing from the Optus network. So yeah.
And another thing that we both did was, this is a very kind of good experience to experience like zero light pollution. So we both took the car out around midnight and just drive around like 20 k's up the road where you're out of town. And you look around, there's absolutely nothing, and you look up and you can see the Milky Way. You can see all these stars that you've never seen before. And we both would spend there like for an hour just kind of like looking at this, pulled over on the middle of a highway. There's no cars coming, nothing's going to happen.
It's beautiful.
And that was a surreal kind of experience.
That sounds wonderful. Well, thank you very much for that. That's got you've got a mixture of practical tips, a good description of what happens in the medical centre and how it differs, and I think that will really help other students feel a bit more comfortable going out, knowing that their concerns are common, but you can have a really great time of the experience with the right attitude.